I did a video earlier today about freedom. If you haven't check that out first of all, and then come back to this video. I'd mentioned that I was going to go to the gym later, you know, so it's now 3:30. I'm now just come from the gym, and it's beautiful to have this level of freedom, you know. So no doubt, you know, lots of us want to, you know, start our own businesses, become financially free so that we can have a lot more time freedom. And I mentioned earlier on today that, look, the time freedom is absolutely priceless. It really is. However, one of the hardest parts of this whole entrepreneurial journey is that transition from employment to entrepreneur. You know, I know we all love the idea of business. We all love the idea of having, you know, our own time, you know, living our life on our own terms. But that whole process of the transition from employment to entrepreneurship, that's no joke. And you will find that, no doubt, this is probably the hardest part of the whole journey. You know, having that whole transition, you know, you've probably heard before that making your first million is probably the hardest. So, you know, going from that whole process of transitioning, you know, starting making your own money, you know, being your own entrepreneur, you know, all that sort of stuff. The hardest part of it is us, because we have to become the entrepreneurs. So that transition into employment mindset to an entrepreneur mindset doesn't always come naturally for everybody. So we might find ourselves still trying to, you know, use the old employment mindset as we transition into entrepreneurship. But, you know, that's not the way to go. It really isn't. You know, we've got to learn a whole new set of skills. And that's what the hardest part of this whole journey is you've now got to learn the skills of the whole entrepreneur journey. And like I mentioned, that doesn't always come naturally to everybody. You know, when you're going through the transition, not only are we developing ourselves into the entrepreneurs that we need to be, but then we've also now got to, you know, manage our work, you know, because I would never tell you to just jump out your day job. You know, at the end of the day, we all need, you know, income. We need to pay the bills. If you've got kids, stuff like that, it'll be irresponsible to just jump out the day job and just say, right, yeah, I'm going to now just go and do my own thing, you know, just, you know, with no income. So we have to put the hours in at work, right? So we've got to work our 9-to-5 job. You know, we might even have to do a few more hours than that. You know, then we've got to, you know, come home, you know, if we've got children, you know, we've got to, you know, manage the kids, get them, you know, dinner, whatever it may well be, you know, give them attention, whatever, you know, and then we're also trying to do our own business on top of that as well. So no wonder why we're burnt out. No wonder sometimes where it's just like the consistency just kind of falls by the wayside because we've got so much stuff going on. And I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, because it's not. You know, when I was transitioning, you know, I would come home from the day job. I would, you know, get home, say, for about 7 o'clock, have a bit of dinner. And then after that, I'd probably work till maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, but fortunately, I didn't have any dependents at that time. Obviously, I've got a daughter now, but I didn't have any dependents at that time. So it was just me. So I could just get it done. And that still was quite a challenge, you know. So I started with things like affiliate marketing, because that was a type of business that I could do in the comfort of my own home anytime I wanted to. So if I wanted to do something at midnight, then I could. Whereas if you've got like more of a bricks and mortar type business, then obviously you're relying on, you know, working hours, because that's when people are expecting to do business during the hours of 9 to 5 or whatever it may well be, you know. So having a business, you know, if you like the idea of online businesses, having something where, you know, you don't have to have that time pressure. You don't have to be calling people at 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, sometimes that can be a little bit easier when you're going through this whole transition. Okay. Now, remember as well, you know, your desire, how much you really want this, will determine how quickly you achieve the success of what it is you're looking for. Because obviously people do it, right? But, you know, I coach lots of people all around the world, and this is the biggest problem that we go through. The biggest problem is, yeah, but Jay, I don't have enough time. Yeah, but Jay, the thing is, you know, because as well as that, not only do we not have enough time, not only do we have to manage the kids and manage everything else, you know, we've also got people around us saying, oh, well, you know, this is not a good idea. You know, well, you know, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to start. Oh, what, you think you're going to be making this money? You think you're going to be able to transition from your day job? You think this? And, you know, that pressure from other people, you know, also can knock our confidence. So that then means we feel a bit lower. We've got to fight against them as well. So we've got so much stuff going on that is going against us when it comes down to transitioning. Remember, when we go through the schooling system, we go through the university system, everything is designed to, to get a job at the end of it. Most of the time it's not based around entrepreneurship. I mean, when do we learn about entrepreneurship in school? We don't really, right? So it's all geared up around, employment. So that then means that the people around you, they've got that same employee mindset, so it's quite narrow. You've got a very narrow mindset, and now all of a sudden you're now trying to, become financially free and become successful. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Because it goes completely against what they're used to, what they know. It goes completely against it all. So that then means that they're now going to try and bring you into their world, into their way of thinking, because they don't understand. So you've got to go up against that as well. So look, I'm not going to say that it's easy. The whole process, I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm going to say, yeah, the transition, employment to entrepreneurship, that's probably the hardest part of the whole journey of what you're going to go through. Remember, you've got to develop, you've got to upskill. I did some other videos recently about, selling, learning how to sell, learning how to communicate really effectively. But then you've got a whole, additional learning to go in terms of, if we like online marketing, well, what's a funnel? How do I build a funnel? How do I create effective ads? How do I, get things to convert? How do I increase my conversion rate? What is a conversion rate? What is a click-through rate? What is, how do I increase my conversions? Why does video help increase conversions? How do I do video? I need to be in front. How do I do the videos? All of this stuff. But if you are determined, that's the reason why you need to have a very strong reason why. Because like I say, once you're there, you're there. It does get a lot easier. Making your second million after making your first million is easier. Of course it is. Because now you've already got the skills. If everything went wrong for me tomorrow, if I had to start all over again from tomorrow, I'm very confident that I could get back to where it is, that I know that I deserve to be, and I could get back there relatively quickly. Why? Because I've got the skills. And it's not about look at me, aren't I so fantastic? It's not about that. It's, look, I've gone through the motions. I've been doing this now for over 10 years, full time, for over 10 years. So once you've acquired the skills, then it becomes a lot easier. But again, learning those skills and developing ourselves, that's when it obviously is a little bit more challenging. All right. So having that strong reason why do you really want this? Why do you want to have freedom? Because look, no doubt, your life is probably not that bad. If you're watching the video, it might not be that bad, in terms of, the day job. I know it's a pain in the ass, we want more time freedom, but, at the end of the day, you've got running water, you've got shelter, no doubt you've got food in the fridge, so, you might go out for a restaurant from time to time, go to the cinema. So life it's not that bad. So that means that your reason why needs to be stronger than everything. Your reason as to why you're doing this, why you want this freedom. For me, it was a big thing. I was always told that I'm not going to amount to anything. So as a result of that, I always had this chip on my shoulder. The chip was, you know what? I will show you. I will show all of you. That was what was a burning desire for me. I also realized that I've got one experience of being J. Anthony Hastings, and that is it. And when the show is over, the show is over. And I want to be all I can be within this one existence of what it is that I've got on this planet right here, right now. Yeah, that's always been my reason why. I want to be all I can be. Why not? I want to be in all aspects. I mentioned on the other video, I've been on this health kick, going to the gym. I'm doing lots of martial arts. And the reason why is because I saw a video of me the other day and I thought to myself, geez, I put on some weight. I'm thinking, look, it's been summertime. The weather's been nice, been out, having fun, eating out, it's been lovely, all the rest of it. But it's like, geez, you put on some weight, so my desire is to be all I can be in life. So as a result of that, I've got to work out, I've got to do whatever it is I need to do, all of that sort of stuff. So, this is me, this is who I am. But obviously, who are you in this space? What is your reason why? Because I've mentioned that it's not always going to be easy, right? I've mentioned that this whole transition, learning everything, it's a process that you've got to go through. And, when you see lots of entrepreneurs online, they probably don't appreciate, they probably don't remember how difficult it really is. So, you'll hear people just say, oh, just do it, just get it done. Yeah, just do it. You want success, just do it. And just do it. However, it's not always as easy as that. because there's so many other different factors. And yes, you know, we've got a strong desire, but the reality is that we have got a day job. The reality is that we do have 2 children. The reality is that, you know, we've only got so much time. You know, the reality is, yes, we do need to sleep as well, you know, so that is the reality. You know, so surrounding yourself with the right people, you know, looking at how they do things can make your life that little bit easier. So I would strongly suggest, you know, if you don't do it, if you're not networking, if you haven't got the right type of people around you, you know, definitely do that, because they will help. Mentors help, you know, coaches help, you know, they help you to organize yourself so that you can then go on to achieve the goals of what it is that you're looking for. Remember, once you're there, it then becomes a lot easier, you know, going on to make more money and more money and more money. I mean, look, my target every single day is to make £5,000 every single day of my life. That is my target. When I was in my day job, making £5,000 a day, you got to be joking, right? I mean, how many hours would that have made taken me to make £5,000 in the day job? I mean, that's probably what, 2 months worth of, you know, so that's what, 180 odd hours, 160 odd hours a month. So we're talking maybe 320 hours to make 5 grand. You know, I'm looking to do that today, of course, you know, and that's what I look to do each and every day. But I can say that now, because obviously by transitioning to entrepreneurship and, you know, and recognizing and having the skills, you know, it becomes a lot easier, but you just need to get there. Once you're there, I promise you, all the hard work, you know, 6 months of real hard dedication and hard work, you know, once you get there, then you're there. And then once you're there, you know, you can enjoy the freedom, you know, do what you want. Like I say, I was at martial arts earlier on today. If you didn't see that video, check it out. You know, now I'm at the gym, you know, now I'm going to go home. I'm going to now maybe do a little bit of work, maybe about an hour or 2 of work, and then after that I'm going to just chill out. You know, then I'm going to chill, I'm going to go and see a friend later, and that sort of thing, you know. So yeah, you get to that stage when you get a lot more freedom, but we've got to get there first of all. Your reason why is absolutely crucial. All right, don't forget, subscribe, don't forget to like the video if you like the video, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. All right, take care, thank you.